Hi guys! First I want to apologize for the weird lighting. We're just going to ignore them. Everyone knows what a social worker is, but have you heard of one within the foster care system? Social workers are used in all different kinds of situations. It can be in a school, in a legal matter, or what we're talking about today, a foster care system. A social worker within the foster care system is someone who provides support to children and families within it. These are the people who find homes or places to stay for the children in need. Likely, you know someone who has been in the foster care system or someone who has helped support. I became interested in this topic because I have always wanted to help children who didn't have families and homes to go to. I never really knew how I could do that effectively until I learned about the foster care system and the people who work within it. I then began to research different jobs within the foster care system, and eventually it led me to social workers. That then led me to thinking about how social workers need to communicate and how they effectively do so. Today, I will share with you some of my findings. Specifically, I want to inform you on the best ways a social worker can communicate with foster care families. I will do this by talking about what not to do, what to do, and the importance of communication. Communication in social working within foster care is important for many different reasons. Communication is important within every job that a person may do, whether it be a doctor, a policeman, or what I'm talking about today, a social worker. Without communication, nobody would be able to do their jobs effectively. Communication in social working is important because without it, foster care social workers wouldn't be able to do what is best for a child. According to One Education, communication is important because without it, a social worker wouldn't be able to negotiate sensitively or appropriately with foster care families. This would mean that they wouldn't be able to decide what is best for the child and that said family taking care of the child. According to the Foster Care and Adoption Resource Center, communication is important for supporting healthy relationships. That when a social worker and foster care families are able to openly communicate, less problems are to arise. They would not be able to come together for the child. Although communication is important, knowing how to effectively do so is also a key factor. There are many different ways of communicating, and each of them have their own way of being done effectively. The different types of communication would include verbal and nonverbal, active listening, self-awareness, empathy, and personal learning. Knowing how to communicate properly is something that everyone has to learn, but for a social worker, it might look different than some. According to the International Journal of Research in Sociology and Anthropology, a social worker needs to be able to communicate professionally to develop a relationship with their foster care families. A social worker may do this by only providing knowledgeable information. According to One Education, effective communication is the center of social working. That as a social worker, you need to be able to communicate clearly with every person within the system and get them to agree to the same outcome, which ultimately would be best for the child. Knowing how to effectively communicate is always a good thing, but knowing what not to say or do is also a key factor in communicating. There are many different things that a foster care social worker shouldn't do when they're communicating with a family. Even if you aren't a social worker, knowing how you shouldn't communicate something everyone can use. According to Stacy Ziegler at Cron, social workers should hold back from judging or making untrue and false accusations. This means they shouldn't let their feelings or opinions toward the situation affect the way they handle the job. Ziegler also states that when a social worker is talking, they shouldn't raise their voice and they need to try to become a mediator in stressful situations. A foster care social worker needs to be able to put aside all of their emotions or feelings and work toward what is best for the child in a certain foster care home. Now that I have informed you on how to effectively communicate between a social worker and a foster care family, we have talked about the importance of communication, how to effectively communicate, and what not to do when communicating. The next time you are communicating with someone, you can come back to the speech and apply it to your own situations. Communicating may be different in certain situations, but what we talked about can also be useful to you. Bye, guys!